Well, thank you, Alan. This is great. What a turnout. Nothing makes me prouder, as district engineer, being part of the PRC and seeing a collective effort, groups from industry, government, nonprofit, to really solve a challenging problem. I'm the District 2 engineer, Francisco Sanchez, oversee operations for Southeast New Mexico. Next slide. So District 2, we encompass that southeast corner. We serve 11 counties, 137 entities, 7,700 lane miles. So it's very comparable to the Odessa district. Very diverse. District 2, challenging in the way we are in southeast New Mexico. On the east side, it's become a big freight corridor, US 54. The port of Santa Teresa has become, year after year, seeing increased freight coming through there, and that's all coming up 54. On the northwest corner there in Clovis, they have two of the biggest cheese plants in the nation. So we're seeing a lot of freight go to that area. And of course, down in the Permian. I'm born and raised in Roswell, New Mexico, so I know southeastern New Mexico, very familiar with the roads, and that's been a benefit of being the District 2 engineer. And, I always felt I knew what was going on. And, I drive down the Permian Basin, wow. The activity that's down there, such a great thing for the economy in New Mexico, but it is challenging for New Mexico Department of Transportation. Next slide. So, a lot of the traffic increase in all our highways, it's very commercial, heavy commercial related, just the increase in numbers. And so we have seen the increase in fatalities and stress on our pavement and our structures throughout District 2. Next slide. So as you can see, this is kind of an overview of our projects that have been going on the last 5 years. Overall, in the last 2 years, in 2021, we've completed $170 million in projects. And our active construction program currently is over $200 million. And so we've tried to spread out the investment throughout District 2, but we realize the importance of the Permian and the projects that are needed down there, because that's where we're seeing the most increase in traffic and also safety challenges down there. So in the last 5 years, we have put an investment in Eddy and Lee County, which are the primary counties in the Permian, of close to $260 million. So we've seen the value of addressing issues in southeast New Mexico, especially in the Permian Basin. Next slide. So our number one, our current biggest infrastructure project in District 2 is the US 285 corridor from 0 to 22. Many of you are probably familiar with that. So next slide. So I know Eric touched on a little bit of, their budget, that $1.2 billion just really sticks out, Man, if I walked in with $1.1 billion, I probably would faint going to the office we had. And so just to put in perspective, overall, New Mexico, the largest portion of our construction program for any improvements, it's through federal highway, federal money, Federal Highway Administration. We're an 85-15 state, so 85% of all our construction dollars are coming from the Federal Highway Administration, 15 from the state. Believe it or not, the amount we get from the federal is $280 million. That's what we receive. And once we pay debt services, that's divided by the districts. And so overall, each district's looking at about $40 million to really do projects and improvements. And the way, we're up to $3 million a mile in construction, new construction. $40 million does not go a long way. So we really have to be creative in New Mexico, really have to work with our state legislature to come up with extra state money. And, luckily in the last 5 years, New Mexico leadership, especially the legislature, have seen the value in investing in infrastructure. This project overall is $150 million to reconstruct that corridor. That took 2 years of our budget and a large contribution from the state, from our state legislature. New Mexico, on a large project like this, a lot of times we have to phase them just to get these done. So we had to phase this in 4 sections to get this done. And so since we bid them in separate times, all those sections will be completed at different times. So 2 of the phases will be around spring of 23, and 2 of the phases will be completed in the winter of 23. And so at that time, that whole corridor will be complete. Next slide. So, Eric touched, this focus of the presentation is engineering. We feel at DOT that it's going to be a major component of safety. The 285 at one time was our most dangerous corridor, and we took it on. And with engineering, that highway is going to become a 4-lane, and many sections address the highest traffic intersections, which are going to go a long way in keeping people safe out there. So our next number one priority, had a pleasure of sitting with Ricky from Select Energy, and he's like, I was asking him, do you work in New Mexico? And I was, yeah, we do a lot of work around JAL. And he's like, wow, that 128 something else, the traffic there is pretty bad. And we realize that. So our next number one priority for District 2 and the state is New Mexico 31, 128. And we're going to take that on as a design build. It's a procurement method where we bring the contractor and the design team together to fast track these projects. Like I said, we usually have to do projects in phases, but we really believe that we have the buy-in from the state to take this on all at once as a design build. So next section. So overall, the whole reconstruction, enhancing 31 and 128 would cost us $433 million. With only 280 coming a year, that's going to, it's not feasible. So what we're doing, next slide, at New Mexico, DOT is really prioritizing the need out there with the highest safety issues, the most congestion. And so this will be our design build that we're working on. This approximately those sections of the priorities that we want to take on. That right there is approximately $140 million. Next slide. So the reason we believe we can take on a project like 128 and deliver it all at once, because we have had buy-in from our state partners. As you can see over for the last 10 years before you start seeing that increase, the state would not contribute anything to infrastructure. The DOT is self-funded through gas tax and permits and special fuels, and then with our federal share, that's what our construction program is. But in the last 5 years, as you can see, our state legislature through general appropriations has really stepped in and put in some really good numbers for infrastructure. We believe that's going to continue, and hopefully here in 23, this slide is not updated, but in 2022, they gave NMDOT $200 million. 31 million of that went to District 2 for the design build. And our hope is in 23, when we go to the session this year, we'll get the rest for 128 and be in construction late in 23 or early 24. And that's our hope. Next slide. So in the interim, as we try to get buy-in and get the large amount of infrastructure money for 128, 31 to build that all at once, we're taking on interim projects that fit our budget at District 2. The $40 million I receive a year, we really targeted on areas that we feel will contribute to the highest safety improvements. One of this is the intersection of New Mexico 31, US 285. If you've driven through there, very congested, a lot of accidents. It's not ideal. As you can see, it's at an angle askew, and that causes a lot of problems with sight visibility. So we're going to realign that. We're going to move that 1500 to the south, realign it, bring in new turn lanes and a traffic signal, and we believe that's going to go a long way for safety, and that's going to tie really nicely into our design build when we get that started. Next slide. Within that budget, we are trying to improve communities. This is a groundbreaking for Lovington, New Mexico, a full reconstruction of their downtown. To me, these are some of my favorite projects to be involved in staff, because we really get involved with the community. Every community, I can imagine the same in Texas, where the Odessa, it has characteristics and history, and we try to work with these communities to really bring that out in our design, and that's what we did here. Lovington has a very interesting design, history and culture, and we really highlighted that in design, and hopefully when we're completed, the town of Lovington will be really happy. Next slide. Another focus that we've really taken on, and many of you have driven the highways in New Mexico, and our payment conditions have really deteriorated. due to the increase in freight and commercial vehicles in our highways. So we've taken out a heavy investment in improving pavement while we continue to progress towards these large infrastructure projects that are really going to address safety. So as you can see, in the last 5 years, we invested $65 million on just improving pavement on the key roads in the Permian in New Mexico. Next slide. So yesterday in our board meeting, Alan said something that really stuck with me, especially with this awards banquet, is highlighting safety. And I know I do this as the leader of District 2. Sometimes we talk safety. We're always saying, we present to our staff and our program, we need to do this, because this can happen. But what really stuck out with Ellen is highlighting safety. That is a big part, I think, in the future of not only improving our safety, but sometimes that needs to be heard, the good side of safety. And that's one thing I'm going to take back from the board. I know everyone in this room is just like me. We go to work. We enjoy work because of the people we work for, and we don't want any of these people to get hurt. We want them to come home with their families, and that's why I'm proud to be on the board, and man, ecstatic for the recipients to show what they've done, contribution to safety. Just commend them, and I can't wait to continue working with everybody to come to a mutual goal and improve Southeast New Mexico, Texas, and the Permian Basin. Thank you.